Okay, welcome to Speech Talk Live. My name is Jay Oza. This is episode number 41, and I have my co-host with me, Julie Wu Finkelstein. So I'm based out of New Jersey, and we do this show basically for a few reasons. One is to learn. This is about public speaking. The other thing is we teach. A lot of our episodes get viewed on the Coursera's website, the discussion forum. And we are both mentors for the Coursera's course Introduction to Public Speaking. So this is sort of our way of helping the international student body who are taking this course. And they don't have contact with the instructor, the Dr. McGarity. So we are volunteers who have volunteered to become mentors to help students if they have any questions, suggestions, then we help them out. And we'd like them to actually send us a video of their questions. But this is sort of our way of doing the show on a weekly basis to help the student body with some of the topics that we think are important. So let me just go to the agenda for today. We typically start our show with a 3-minute segment, which is a freestyle where we talk for 3 minutes about any topics. And then after that, we'll move into our scheduled programs, the structured part of the program. And we have 3 segments. The first segment, it's going to be kind of a continuation of a speech that we discussed. And this has to do with informative speech and that you have to sell informative speech. In this particular segment, we're going to talk about what exactly does selling mean. People have all kinds of notion of what selling is. So I'm going to focus on what I think selling is when it comes to speaking. So we'll have a discussion around that. And then we'll talk about Julie's continuation of her series of videos that she's doing on yin yoga, her energy hack poses that she's been working on. This is part of the book that she's working on, and she's going to recorded a video and she's going to facilitate that, talk about that, and then I'll give her my feedback based on what she wants me to focus on. And in the third segment, we're going to focus on something that comes up. I think we may have discussed this in the past, but I want to focus on criticism because a lot of people have fear. And one of the fears that they have has to do with like, oh, what, somebody's going to criticize me. So I think we want to have a discussion around that. It's one of those things that we do need to talk about because people don't like to be criticized. So I'm going to talk about how to handle that. So that's the show for today. And if you're watching this, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please let us know. And if you have a question that you'd like to record a video, then record it and then send it to us and we will use it. Okay? So at this point, let me turn it over to Julie to have her introduce herself quickly, and then we'll move on to our 3-minute speech segment. Julie, take it over. You're muted.
Yeah, I'm always challenged with muting and unmuting. My name is Julie Wu Finkelstein, and thanks, Jay, so much for doing this wonderful program. As you know, I have learned a lot from it, and I continue to not just learn from the body, from the knowledge, but practicing skillfully. As you always say, public speaking is not about knowing, but about doing. So I am writing a book, and I'm actually rewriting. I'm going to finish the book. I'm going to have closure on it by the end of the month, and hopefully I'll completely restart and rewrite again. And the book is about 12 simple poses. 10 of them are stretches, 2 of them are just poses that help come into I hate the word mindful too, but I'm going to use it, coming to a mindful state. And someday we may have a discussion why we hate the word mindful and all this mindfulness crap that's going around. But meanwhile, I'm writing a book on stretches that help us come into a mindful place or a live place, awakened place. And so that's my introduction for today. Thanks, Jay.
Okay, Julie, thanks a lot. Yeah, we could have a discussion around mindful. It's something, uh, I just think it's just one of those words that just gets overused that after a while I kind of lost what the meaning of mindfulness is. I think we're always mindful, right? I think it's like a redundant word anyway, but we can have a discussion. So I'm going to take a quick pause so that way I can introduce the next segment. All right, welcome back. So this is Speech Talk Live, episode number 41. And this part of the segment is, we call it the 3-minute speech segment, where people who are participating can use their 3 minutes to talk about any topic. And, we don't enforce the time, but it's a way of practicing. If you are in a meeting, networking meeting, or at a party, and people are interested in something that you're bringing up, at most you have 3 minutes to get to your point. After that, you're going to become a bore. So if you want to be interesting, this is a good practice to talk about something that's somewhat, like I said, big talk, right? Not small talk, and try to do it in 3 minutes. Okay, so I'll go first. And I want to talk about something that just came up recently. I was talking to a person, and this is something I should write a book on, because I actually did start writing a book on. It's about interviewing, about people getting a job. And I was explaining to the person that the way I see it, there are 3 parts to an interview. There are 3 checks that the employer is really making when they are hiring you. The first check is the resume check. The second check is the fit check, whether you're a fit for the company, the position, the team. And the third check, which may not be that important today because of the internet, is the resume check. But a reference check. So again, those are resume check, fit check, and reference check, right? These are the traditional. It's always been like that. But the difference is that people don't know what that means and how do you handle it. So what I was telling this person is that you only move to each step after it's been validated that there's no more issues with any of that, right? So for example, when people first call you, they're calling you because they liked something in your resume. And until they are completely certain that resume is not going to be a factor for not getting a job, then only you move to the next part, which is the fit. A lot of people don't realize this. They continue, if the company is still trying to bring up your resume over and over again, and if you, let's say on a phone, they discuss your resume, and then you go to an interview, face-to-face interview, and they're still looking at your resume, that means that they still have concern about your resume. You have not done a good job eliminating the resume from consideration. So what I was telling this person is that until you are 100% sure that the resume they're perfectly happy with your resume. If they're not, then you shouldn't pursue the job further. Because if you go for a face-to-face interview, at that point, if they're taking a resume out, that is a problem. That means that they are still not convinced that your resume is what they're looking for. What the second interview should all be is to see whether you are a fit. And again, that's they're trying to make sure that you're fit and you actually are comfortable in being in that environment. But the resume shouldn't really come up. If they are interested in you giving a presentation on something, then that's fine. If they want you to do a chalk talk, that's fine. If they want you to explain to different situations, those things are fine. And that's what a face-to-face interview should be. Whether you are going to add to the team, because it's the team that makes a project successful, not one individual, particularly speaking. So if they're viewing as a person who is a good fit for the team, the culture that they have, then at that point, they will know whether this is what they're looking for. But if they're still keep bringing up the resume, that means then you're dealing with amateurs, and partly it should be your fault, because in a phone interview, you should have completely eliminated the resume, or at least gotten a validation that the resume is no longer an issue. Now they're going to focus primarily on the fit part of it. And then if they find out that you're a good fit, then the third part could be, the reference check. Now, the reason I say the reference check today isn't as important is because of internet. People know a lot about you. They can find out, like one of the things that I suggest people is that have videos of people that are going to give you reference and have them available. And one of the things I tell people is that use the video reference. If people have already taken time and recorded a video of the of reference that they're giving you, I would send that ahead of time, because why waste time? If you want the reference to be done immediately to short circuit the whole process. So there are a lot of these techniques that people today are just not familiar with, and they go to the traditional route, like, oh, they called me, oh, they like me, and then they go there and there's still the same questions are getting asked that could have been asked on a phone interview. So the reason I say that the resume should be taken care of the phone is because these are questions that can easily be taken care over the phone. And when it's a face-to-face, that should be very much about how compatible you are with the team that they have. And people sometimes don't realize that. And part of it is, if you're interviewing, it's your job. You can't always know whether the people that are interviewing are going to be professionals or amateurs, but you have to make it clear that this is my process of interviewing with you and pursuing it further. So I hope this helps, because a lot of people don't know this, and they really struggle through the interview process because they just don't know, and then they really get frustrated at the end. All right, Julie, take it over.
Thanks, Jay. Yeah, that was very interesting. Definitely a book or a curriculum of training for that, a workshop maybe, or maybe a freelance article. So my speech today is actually combining, on Wednesdays, you coached me on my book, and I'm still trying to work through what that means. Which is good, because you must have hit a blind spot, because I'm still trying to understand that. Also, I combine what you talk about, selling an informative speech. So this is how I am applying what you said into my book. Basically, my book, in order to sell my book, to have people receive it, is that I need to, first of all, explain the practice and the teaching, okay? So just like public speaking, you don't learn to speak with knowledge, with practice, but you can't just practice without knowledge, because that doesn't work. So there's fundamental knowledge that you need, because it's a different perspective about the stretches, so that's why they're not simple. The stretches are simple, but the sequence, the reasons are complex. Okay, so the other thing that you're saying is have the knowledge and then relate it to the audience. So so have the knowledge, relating it to the audience, a part of sales. The second part is having credibility. So my sources of credibility are basically my personal experience, anecdotes from others, and also the luminaries that influence this body of work that's coming out. So there's actually, one of the things you talk about is a huge, having a credible body of work. The body of work is not just my work. It's a body of work from many experts and teachers around the way. So those are the components to an effective sale, if you will. Today, I want to explain the teachings as simple as I can, because that's what I think you were telling me, is that it doesn't have to be mumbo jumbo, whether it's scientific or religious or whatever. So here is the fundamental theorems that I am working with right now, and there's 4 of them, maybe 5. Number 1 is life is energy, Energy is infinite and it's always available to us. Number two, the body and the mind are not separate. When we put our attention, intention together, when we move, we have maximum energy available to us, and we can express that energy by reaching our highest potential. The body and mind are not separate. Through attention and intention, we get the energy that's already available to us. Number three, when we are sick and when we're not reaching our highest potential, that's when we are unhappy. It's because there are blockages. And because the body and the mind are not separate, you can work the blockages through the body or the mind. These 12 simple poses helps with the body and the mind to release the blockages so that you can come back to your natural, healthy, optimal, joyful state. When you release your blockages, your body will naturally align with gravity, and you will physically feel light and emotionally feel free and happy. So that's it. I'm going to listen to this again. So basically what I'm saying is, to recap, is that I think in order to sell my book, I have personal experiences, anecdotes from others, the body of work both from myself and from others, explaining clearly what the teachings are, and then relating these teachings and these practices to that person's well-being. That's why I got out of our conversations. Thank you.
Right. Okay, that was good, Julie. So let me just give you an example of what I mean. So when you went through this and you say life is energy. Now, at that point, I want you to elaborate further, just to make sure. I'm pretty sure you understand what that means. Life is energy. But I'm not sure a lot of people out there who are trying to read your book to understand what that is. And there, I think if you take a couple of a few seconds, or not a few seconds, maybe a minute, and elaborate, like, what is life is energy? So what exactly does that mean? Because I'm not sure a lot of people understand what life is energy means. So that's what I'm saying, that when you say body and mind are not separate, again, you have to elaborate. What does that really mean? Body, and those are very complex. Those are complex statements that you're just making there. Life is energy. Body and mind are not separate. And what I think would help you, this is what I was explaining, that you have all these things there. Life is energy. Body and mind are not separate. But I think to simplify it, you got to bring it down. That's a nice statement. Life is energy. So then you can say, okay, so what does that really mean? Here's what it means. Like that. That's what I want you to do. Okay. If you ask me for feedback, that's the kind of feedback that that would help me. So when you say, you can say that life is energy, but then I think you should come back and say, okay, so what does that really mean? Okay, let me explain it to you. What I mean by this, life is energy, is that your life, and you have to convince yourself, have you explained it to the point that maybe a 4-year-old, not a 4-year-old, a fourth grader can understand it? And at that point, then you can move on to the next point. That's what I'm saying. That a lot of times when people talk about mindfulness, they talk about these terms like life is energy, body and mind are not separate. And I guess when you were deep into it, you don't realize it, that that's how you understand the world. You completely understand it. But people who are not mindfulness expert, for them, it's very difficult to understand what that really means. So that's what I was referring to. Does that make any sense or not?
Yeah, I think I can do that, but maybe not in a 3-minute speech.
Yeah, no, not in 3 minutes. I was just giving you an idea.
I appreciate the feedback for the next version of my book.
Yeah, I think that each one of those things, just go deeper and simplify it till you think like, oh, at this point, I just can't simplify it any further. I think I could make even a fourth grader or a fifth grader understand what I'm saying. At that point, then you can move on to the next one. Okay?
Yeah.
Thanks. All right, great. Okay, but I like that you're trying constantly tweaking it and trying to improve it. That's the way it should be. So don't take it like, oh my God, he's still not happy.
Oh, no, 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 no. I don't feel that way.
No, no, that's what I'm saying. I just need to make sure, because a lot of times when people keep working on it, because I've seen it personally from some of the family members that I work with. When you try to tell them something to try to improve it, they don't think of you as trying to help them. They think like, oh no, I just don't want them to be looking at it anymore. Because like my son does that when he used to write an essay. He's like, I said, can I see it? He said, no, you're going to criticize it. I said, well, that's exactly the whole point, so that you can make it better. It's not, criticism is not meant as a negative thing. Criticism is meant as a way for you to learn.
Well, a father cannot be a Socrates all the time.
You're great, son. You're doing great.
Well, I mean, you have to look for strategic opportune moments, right? 5 to 1.
Right.
5 positive feedbacks for 1 constructive criticism.
Right. No, I agree. That's yeah, but I think what you're doing is actually good. I am just trying to point out that all these items are good. I'm just trying to saying, like, if somebody was looking at this, they understand it. But then, what if somebody out there who's not a mindfulness expert, can they understand it? And that's the figure that you have to determine what audience you're trying to really reach.
Well, this is very interesting, because to me, I have simplified it. So it's very interesting feedback for me that you're saying it's still too esoteric or it's too out there, So actually, I think the term is not simplify, it's concretize. It's making it concrete so people can understand it.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Make it relatable.
Like when I say simplify, this is my definition of simplify. That if they were to take that to somebody else and saying, "Hey, guess what? I just learned something from Julie Finkelstein about that life is energy." Somebody's going to ask them, so what does that really mean? And they better be able to explain it, because if they can't, yeah, she said something about that, but I'm not really sure what that really means. Then that's the problem. You see?
Mm.
That's what I mean. That when you simplifying means that can that person who's watching it, can they explain to somebody else? And if they can, then you hit the mark.
Yeah, so I'm saying make it relatable. Relatable to my audience.
Right.
And making it concretized so they can experience it too.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Julie. Great job. Let's take a short break. And if you can mute your line, I'll introduce the next segment.
Okay. We're good on time.
Okay, we'll get started. Okay, welcome back. This is Speech Talk Live, episode number 41. And this is segment number 1. And in this segment, we're going to kind of continue from where we left off in episode 40, when I introduced the segment called that when you're giving an informative speech, you're doing more than just inform. You're trying to sell the information that you are giving to your audience. But one thing I didn't really get a chance to go into it in more detail there was what exactly this word, quote unquote word, selling really means. And a lot of people, when you use the word selling, they think of you coming across like a, kind of like a panderer or a sleazy salesman who is going to say anything to kind of get the message across. And that's really not what I really mean, because when I say selling, so let me just kind of use my hand gesture. So you have information that you're communicating. The purpose is that information belongs to you. You have that information that you want to communicate. Your audience needs to know why that information is important to them, how it helps them, how it benefits them. Typical things that you always hear in sales book, right? Because selling is all about, can that audience member tie the information to their specific needs and wants, right? And that's what you're trying to do. And you're not trying to manipulate them, right? Because a lot of times selling, there's a lot of manipulation that takes place. Everybody will tell you, no, it's not. But believe me, I know all these tricks, okay? All these manipulating tricks that are all out there. These are not secrets. and salespeople use it because it works. That's not the kind of selling I am interested in. Okay, I think that when you are giving a speech, you have to assume that your audience is intelligent and that they're going to listen to you closely and then make a decision. And one of the things I always, the way I respect an audience members or people that I'm trying to sell my speeches, that the real selling is not going to occur while I'm there. The real selling is occur when I'm not there, meaning that they're going to go back, and if they're smart, which I am respecting that they are, a lot of salespeople don't respect their customers or people that they're speaking to. They think they'll just believe everything they say. That they will go back and go on Google, go on my website, and have access to all kinds of information. It could be the body of work, could be my social media presence, could be my tweets, could be Facebook, could be LinkedIn, everything. And then they're going to come and reach, and they can also be talking to other people who were there. So selling is not just you are selling. You just got to make sure that you point out how that information helps them. And then your social media presence, your body of work are all kind of consistent with that message, that you're not like one trick pony saying same thing over and over again, that you have real breadth and depth. So the audience member really starts developing trust and incrementally, little by little, starts trusting you and saying, I think I get it now. I'm ready to buy. That's what I'm saying. That's the kind of selling that I want you to do when it's a speech, and not just fall for the easy trap like, I'll just just bamboozle them with this my personality. I'll just use these words like, trust me, I'm looking after your interest, I believe in what you want. That may work with some people, but again, that's not the kind of selling I'm interested in. There are a lot of people who use that and they're very successful, but I think that, in my opinion, that's manipulation, and I don't like to manipulate people. I think people should be able to, you give them the information, you tell them how it's important to you, and then let them reach their own decision. So as we had a speaker whose speech we evaluated, Fabiana, who said that customers don't want to be sold. They want to buy. And that's what I'm essentially saying, the same thing, that you give your information in such a way so that they can eventually come to that decision of buying rather than feeling like they're being sold. So and you need the same approach when you're giving your speech, that information that you have is not just to inform, otherwise it just stays out there. The burden is on you to tie it to the particular audience's needs and wants, and then they can then take it from there and make a decision. Julie, what do you think?
Yeah, Jay. I actually thought that this speech had a lot of meat in it. What I thought as a content, I thought was very interesting. As a performance presentation, I thought that it felt like your first hack, maybe your third hack, but it still felt like a hack, which is good because I think we hack it till we make it, right? The key points I got out of it was you can't make up stuff. Credibility is really important. Credibility means the information is verifiable, because these days people check right away, and that you need to develop a body of work, and then that you need to have some breadth and depth. You can't be a one-trick pony. And I think the other thing so that's kind of like building the foundation. And then what I got is you don't really sell in terms of like what you said, the tricks, but what you really do is deliver meaningful information. But people can get you. Now, this is not what you said. This is why I'm adding to it. People can get information and data these days easily. Your service as a speech, which is what you always say, is to make people smarter, is to make that link between that information and how it's relevant to them. So I got that because you said you have to, I don't know if I quoted you or not, you want to tie information to audience needs. and then you focus on the negativities. I just thought it was really nice in terms of content. You know, I know you are using this as a medium to develop your speeches. I think there's a lot to selling, right? People put so much into this. But I think there's some unique ideas here, like even the simple sentence, how to tie information to audience needs, that itself could be a mini workshop, right? Or how to construct credibility out of your knowledge and your body of work. That could be another mini workshop. So I just think there was a little dance, but that was good because I have a feeling it's an earlier effort. With regard to your performance, I will say that I've said this again, but I think I may have a solution for you. It felt like your hands were moving, but not your head or your body. So I would invite you to actually have you can do it like using your image. As you know, I'm doing the stretches. So I have a custom pose for you. I want to invite you to either do it with your imagination or actually do it in your body too. Is, you know how Amy talks about the victory pose? I like you to take the victory pose. Imagine you're securely grounded in your feet, so, and then wave your body. So I'm calling it like the seaweed pose. But I want you to feel it all the way from your foot, the toe tips. Feel the energy moving through as fluidly as you can, and moving it through all the way through your spine and through your fingertips. Because I think because of your spine injury, there's a natural stiffness in you. And so energy is not flowing. So this will not only help your speech, your performance to be more fluid and dynamic, so energy doesn't get stuck, but also help you to develop a greater confidence in the fluidity of your body over time. And that's a very clear example, is that energy should move all the way through your body, but now it's getting stuck between your neck and your hips in there. So
Right.
okay,
No,
that's it. Thank you.
yeah, no, I agree. There were several things going on with this speech. One is that I think I had that thing that I was wearing was a little too warm, and the temperature started getting really. So I was a little uncomfortable when I was recording.
Oh, okay. That felt. I guess subconsciously or unconsciously, I felt that.
Yeah, and this was, like I said, it was a hack. This was my first, and I was supposed to.
Okay.
I was supposed to go back and record it again, but then I said, you know what? Let me just leave it this way, because my purpose here is not to make it better, to perfect. I just want to get a feedback whether the content here makes. So I was more focused here on the content and not necessarily the performance. So when I hack these are speech hacks. These are not necessarily performance hacks. So I just want to make it clear that all of the speeches that I'm recording for this show are primarily speech hacks. They, in my methodology, I have a speech hack, I have a message hack, and then a performance hack. For these speeches that I'm recording, I should actually clarify that, because otherwise your feedback.
Yeah, I have no.
Yeah. Otherwise so what I should say is that when these are all speech hacks. So the main thing that you can focus on is the content. If I say, Julie, this one is a speech hack plus a message hack plus a performance hack, then you can say, okay, now let me look at the performance, since you really were specifically focusing on the performance. I really wasn't focusing on the performance. I just was trying to get the message out. So next time I will actually have to record something where I go through all three hacks, because I need to do that.
Well, nevertheless, I think the seaweed pose is probably good for you anytime.
Right.
I think that's you're asking me to simplify the work I'm doing through the book, and this is how. If you were having a one-on-one coaching with me, in terms of using the knowledge I have for stretching to free up your life and to free up. To me, that would be the seaweed pose right now, with deep breathing. So
yeah, now can I use that pose, because I still have pain? My surgery.
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the things that affects my body language is still, as you know, I had a surgery last year and it didn't go well. It doesn't look like it's going to
Oh,
work. So that limits my ability to really be loose out there because I just can't move that freely. So I'm not sure what I can do. I know what you're suggesting, and I know that's an issue that you brought up other times, but I'm sort of limited on what I can really
yeah.
do about that.
Can you lie down?
Yeah,
Can you do the Savasana pose?
yeah.
Can you
Oh,
do,
lie down, right?
yeah,
Corpse. Yeah,
the corpse pose? And then can you do the starfish,
yeah. I
which
can, I
is,
can, I can. No, I can do that. I'm just saying when it comes to
yeah, I'm
movement.
just going to
Yeah.
say do it on the floor.
Hmm.
Do what I suggested for you. Do it on the floor. And if you can, if you find some pain, don't push through the pain.
Hmm.
Just come back and then come to the edge and come back and come to the edge because your body is intelligent.
Hmm.
Your body will figure out how to move beyond the edge. All
Okay.
you have to do is come to the edge, relax, enjoy, and sometimes eventually the pain itself is enjoyable because it's actually stimulating the dead nerves. You know, the energy. There's only one. You know how in IT we have this cable, and so energy can come up only one way. So it's the same energy whether it's pain or pleasure. So you can find that place right on the edge and just let the pain be the pain, and it will educate your body and also begin to feel pleasurable because the edge of growth for you.
Right, right. Okay, I will try that pose, and if I have any question, I will ask you. The one thing to close this out, I wanted to say is I don't know if you remember, there used to be a store here in New Jersey. Maybe it was also in New York. I don't, you lived in New York, right? Do you remember that the retail outlet store called Sims? Do you remember that?
Yeah, Sims. Yeah,
And
it's
there was
still
like,
in Chicago.
oh, there's still okay. There's this guy
It's
who
like a
started.
men's shop, right?
Yeah, I think the outside women's. It looked more like a warehouse type.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
like a
yeah.
warehouse. They didn't spend a lot of money. They just had like clothes and clothes. And the guy who used to advertise, the founder of it, his name was Cy Sims, and he always had this
Right.
tagline that an educated person is our best consumer, something like that.
Yeah.
And I always liked that line because what he was saying is that if cost was an issue, if you wanted like brand names with low price, then you come to Sims, right? Otherwise, there are other places you can go to if you want a nice like showroom and all sorts of
Right.
salespeople, because they didn't have any salespeople there. You just went there, you tried on the clothes, you liked it, you bought it, right? That's
Right.
basically what. And I used to purchase a lot of my clothes when we were on budget when we were little. My parents used to take us there, and I would end up buying all these clothes from Sims, especially suits because they had like nice suits on. And I remember that. So that's what I was trying to refer to with my speech. That
Uh,
you're assuming that your audience is educated, that they will come to the right decision. You just have to kind of because a lot of times when it comes to selling, people use a lot of manipulation techniques, and I study them, so I know what they are, and I just that when you know them and you're using them, I kind of feel that's kind of sleazy, if you ask me.
okay. Thank
Okay,
you.
so any closing thoughts, or we're done?
That's great. Thanks.
All right. All right, Julie, I'll introduce the next segment if you can just mute your line. Okay, welcome back to Speech Talk Live, episode number 41. And this is segment number 2. And in this segment, will Julie Wu Finkelstein, the co-host of this program, had recorded a video which is based on the book that she's writing on these 12 poses to energize yourself. And here she has recorded the one of the poses called the dragon, I believe. And it's a short video. I believe it's like close to 3-4 minute video. It's a simple video where she shows us how to do it. But rather than me telling you, I'll let Julie kind of facilitate this session on what she's trying to do with this video and what her objective is and what kind of feedback she's looking for as far as how this video can help somebody. So Julie, why don't you take it over?
Okay, thanks, Jay. Yes, this is the fifth pose in the 12 poses. Like I said, the 10 are stretches, and then there's a centering pose and a relaxation pose at the end. The kind of feedback I'm looking for, Jay, is I think it's the kind you've already been giving me. How can I make it more understandable to the audience? So I don't want to preach to the choir, right? I don't even want to preach to the congregation. I want to preach it so people come sing to the church and try out. So you're not adherent to any of this body mind stuff. So you're a great avatar for me. So these stretchers, one of the components of these stretchers I mentioned is alignment with gravity. And if you have a scaffold, you tie the scaffold up with straws so that it doesn't move. But our bodies move. We have, our joints move, even our skulls move, right? So when I say that blockages make us stuck, and so you can't move, if someone is a paraplegic, they can't move at all, okay? If you have arthritis, you can't move. So that's what I mean by that the energy is stuck. The energy is stuck is what makes up the arm. There's the bones, the joints, right? The ligaments, the tendons, the muscles, the blood that flows through. And if you believe in energy, energy is the subtle energy, the bioelectric that powers our body and mind, right? Now we know that we have some kind of bioelectricity. We know that because when we eat food, the food gets digested and we use it to move, okay? We know that when we breathe, we're breathing in energy. Maybe we think it's air, but somehow it's what we need to move, right? The fifth, this is, so one of the things, like if you have a rubber band that's stiff, you kind of like pull it like an accordion to loosen it up, right? So these stretches work like an accordion. It softens up your body. It softens up the ligaments. And when the body is soft, the first thing it can do is there is a force, an earthly force we call it gravity, right? If you bring the balls up, it falls down. So most of us think that the gravity is collapsing force, but actually if you think about whales swimming in the ocean, redwood trees growing up to be 300 feet tall, they are supported by gravity. How is that possible? It's because it's aligned with the gravitational forces, right? So these stretches, once they release that blockage, that stiffness, the energies can flow through. Once it flows through, the body is intelligent to itself to align with these gravitational forces. So we can become upright like a human being, and we can flow efficiently. The dragon is a stabilizing force. So the dragon is actually a lunge. And I like to think of it as opening up our heroic nature because it stabilizes our hips, it opens up the groin, it strengthens our upper body. So when we move, we can move in alignment with the direction of our choice. So the mechanics of it is in the video. I'm trying to work on what is unique about these moves. So these moves are unique in the sense that they work like an accordion. They're designed to work like a rubber band. So loosening up the body so the body can find its own natural, happy, effective, efficient posture so we can live fully. Hopefully that helps that kind of getting more into what life is energy I'm trying to say. So I'm ready for any feedback you have, Jay. As you know, it's a hack. So
No, that's fine. I actually like the hack. I like the way that you demonstrated that pose because you actually can see it, and you're actually the one who's demonstrating it. I think that really works. It works for me because I like to see you not only talk about it but actually show it, and you're showing it as you're doing it, which I think is quite effective. Uh, and also it was short, so you didn't. I'm not sure the length has that much to do with it. I think it's the clarity and how you want to explain it. I think so. I don't want to make it seem like just because it's shorter, it was better. I don't think that it's that you want to make sure that somebody understands it. uh, the one thing that I would add that, and this is something I'm not saying with I think what you just did, just explaining this pose, is what I would have preferred you had done it in the video, because the way you just explained it was much clearer. I don't think in the pose, in the video, you just went right into demonstrating the pose, which is good. But I think it does help if you take a few minutes and explain what you just did about the energy and how the dragon. So here's what I'm saying. What you're trying to do is you're going to show me the pose. Okay, so that's going to come at the end, right? Because that's the highlight. You don't want to use that up right in the beginning. Otherwise, then it doesn't work, right? So first is, again, getting back to the technique that you call it the sandwich technique. It's like you're going to tell them what you're going to tell them, right? But it's more than that, right? You're going to say, okay, one of the things that people have a problem with is this thing about this alignment and what you were just saying about the bones and how the energy. So just let me explain before I go into the dragon pose, what exactly is happening to your body. So, and again, in a simple way, the way you just did it in this video. So I think I encourage you to watch this because I think you just did that right, which I didn't see it in the video, which I think when you do it face to face, you somehow are much more energized for some reason. And the way you did that, then after you did that, so now I hope that is clear how this is going. Then you go right into the pose and saying, let me now show you what I just was telling you with this pose that I'm doing. And here's where that thing that I was talking about, alignment, comes right in with this pose. And here's why, this is why you need to do this pose. This is why what I just said before is why I'm doing this particular pose in this manner. And I think if you link those two things, first you got to tell them, why are you going to show this pose? And then as you're doing the pose, you bring it back to what you just told them. So in a way, you're kind of applying that sandwich technique, but it's applying it while you're showing them, which I don't know if that's a variation of that technique. And I think if you combine what you just did introducing this video, this segment, with the video, I think then if you marry the two, then I think that would be very effective. And then, of course, you can conclude by saying, so, okay, so here's what we did. We first explained to you why this was important, and then I demonstrated the pose and how it would work. And I now then call to action would be, now see, you can now take this and try it yourself, like that. So that I think would be what I would, that's my feedback, that I think overall you had that the demonstration done extremely well. But the part that you just did in the segment, I think you need to, if you combine the two, then it would be very effective.
Jay, I only could have done 2 days work with the feedback you gave me in the impromptu speech. So thank you so much.
Now, does that work? Does that work? What I just said?
I think that's great. I took a lot of notes.
I think you should watch it because the way you explained it in the segment, I didn't see that explanation in the video.
No.
And that explanation is what I needed. This is just me, okay? You need to check with other people. That I need to first see. I don't even need to know what the dragon is first. So you can say, well, dragon. But before I go into the dragon, let me just kind of explain to you why I'm going to show you the dragon and why this. Again, it comes back to selling the speech, right? Selling the pose.
Yes.
You didn't sell the pose.
Yes, I agree. I think both. I'm getting feedback from several people, and what is very clear is I have the information and I have the movement of the poses, But I think what you're telling me is I have to connect them for the person.
You have to sell the pose, yeah.
I have to sell. Right. That's exactly what you mean by sell the pose.
Right now you're informing in a pose by showing, here's the pose, but I think you need to sell the pose.
Okay, Jay, I think we can work on this some more, but I think we're getting there.
Yeah, I think you're getting there, and it's just it's iterative, right? It's iterative, and I think you're much closer now.
Yes, yes, it's a little rough in the mind right now, but I feel like I jump back to how those salmon you watch the Ninja Warriors.
They fly, they go backwards or something. They
The
fly
Ninja
into.
Warrior, no, they go up.
Yeah.
And then they have to gather all the energy, and then they go up. It's called the salmon ladder.
Oh, okay.
I feel like I just made a leap to the salmon ladder, so I'm not very stable.
Right.
I need to stabilize and then gather energy to make the next leap.
Right. I mean, the purpose of the feedback is that this is what I noticed, and what you need to do is when I send you the link,
yes,
watch it, and then also watch the video and see
Yes.
if and then I would go and actually do it, because otherwise you're going to forget it, because you actually have to do it, and then you can say, okay, I see what he's saying here. Now let me
Yes.
combine that with the pose and then conclude it, and then encourage
Yes.
people to actually do it. I think the formula for all the poses is the same for you.
Yes, that's great.
All right.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll at this point take a brief pause.
Okay, so we have we're doing good on time.
Okay, so you want to mute your line so we can move on to our next segment. Okay, welcome back. This is Jay Oza, Speech Talk Live, episode number 41. And this is segment number 3. And in this segment, we're going to discuss a topic that's, I think, is kind of important, because as I've always said, that when you are giving a speech, you're putting yourself out there. And I consider giving a speech as a creative act, because there's so many things that you have to do well. Just like writing a speech, and then you have to deliver it. So you're doing several things that many people don't realize. It's a creative act when you're giving a speech. And undoubtedly, when you're putting yourself out there, people are going to criticize you. It just goes with the territory. And a lot of times, people can't handle criticism. It's natural. So this is not, look, I don't like to be criticized. Nobody likes to be criticized, okay? You just have to learn to understand what the criticism really means. So before you get criticism, you got to put yourself in the mindset that you're okay with the criticism, that it is going to happen, whether you like. In fact, you want to welcome it, because if you're not getting criticized, that means you're probably speaking to people that already believe what you're saying, or they're brain dead, okay, in a good way. So you want to be careful here, because criticism is something you do want, because that makes you better. But before you actually get the criticism, you have to ask yourself, when you're giving a speech, what are the criticism that are that you definitely expect? Because there are going to be people who are not going to agree with you, and they're going to criticize you. So one criticism is the content. People are going to criticize you whether they agree with something or disagree with something. They say, I don't think that makes any sense, and it happens, right? Because they have a different mindset. Their framing is different. So it's not that you're right. They're right and you're right, okay? You just both have to accept that, agree to disagree. And that happens. Doesn't make you good, doesn't make them bad or anything like that. It's just the reality. People have different information, different experiences, and there are going to be disagreement. And occasionally when there's a disagreement, that leads to criticism, okay? So what you have to do, as I pointed out in the video, is that before you give a speech, take a paper and draw a line right in the middle. On the left, just write down 3 points that people are going to like about the content. And then on the right, you can write down maybe 3 things that people will criticize based on the content that you're presenting. And these are criticism that you already know ahead of time that you're going to get. And if you get that, that means you did your job, that these criticisms were really valid and you expected it, okay? That means that if somebody says, oh, the content was stupid, that criticism you ignore, because that's not a valid criticism. Your content was stupid. It's just people are going to say all kinds of nonsense stuff. Your content was boring, your content was stupid, and all that. That's not a criticism, okay? That's just people being mean. And people that are being mean are to be ignored, okay? Don't add fuel to the fire there. Just ignore them. I get them with my video. People will sometimes say that I'm stupid, especially when it gets political. People react to that. And you just ignore them because that's not the kind of real criticism is they tell you like, hey, I disagree with you and here's why I disagree. Those are valid criticism and you should expect criticism. Criticism is good. It's not bad, okay? I just want to make it clear. When people say I don't like to be criticized, that means then they shouldn't give a speech. So welcome criticism. Criticism is good. The second kind of criticism is the criticism you'll get for your performance. Now, again, as you saw, I gave a speech, I recorded it, and I got a very good criticism from Julie. That's good criticism because she's specifically pointing out that my energy wasn't as high as it should have been, and here's some of the things that I could do. That kind of criticism is helpful. In fact, you want to encourage that type of criticism. Otherwise, you can't improve yourself. So again, this is difficult, right, when it comes to performance because you're not going to get a chance to put a line in the middle and put down what did you do well. This is going to be kind of dynamic, and you will know. Let me tell you, if you practiced and rehearsed it and all that, and when you actually do it live, you will know what you have done well and what you could have improved upon based on. And remember, improvement is based on what kind of reaction you're getting from the audience. And if somebody says, and if you think that based on the reaction you were getting that your speech just wasn't resonating, and somebody puts down that, oh, the performance was boring, it's not the content, it's the performance, right? They could have a valid point. Maybe you need to figure out how to make it more exciting for the audience. So my whole point is that don't get intimidated with criticism. You actually want to anticipate it ahead of time, and then to see whether those criticisms were actually really, did they hit the mark or not. Some of them you're going to be criticized because you have a point of view. And criticism will happen because when you take a strong point of view, people will criticize that, right? Like if I go and tell people like, I think Donald Trump will make a great president, I will get reaction to that, okay? I will get reaction. Some of them, some of the bad criticism will be, you're an idiot. Why would you say things like that? I can ignore those type of criticism. But if I give them real reason why I think he would make a good president, and then I say, okay, here's things that somebody will say, I agree, the people who are supporting, and the people that are not supporting, what are the things they're going to say? That he doesn't have an experience, he antagonizes people, he is not guarded. Those are valid criticism, okay? Those criticism I can handle because those are indeed correct. They're right. So I'm just giving an example on how to handle criticism. Do not go in, and this doesn't only work, this doesn't apply just to public speaking, it applies to anything when you're taking action and you're putting yourself out there. But one of the things that people don't do is they don't put time into the criticism ahead of time. And then when they get it, they get disappointed. And I think that's not what you want. So I'm just kind of showing you that on how to really deal with criticism, because you will get criticized when you're giving a speech. Julie, what do you think?
Yeah, Jay, I thought this has a lot of merit. In fact, I did a little pseudocode or flowchart for you should you wish to create a workshop out of it. So basically, the workshop will be looking at the process, which is what I call setup for training. And you want to introduce how to create the check sheet or the checklist, which is kind of like a SWOT almost, like acceptable criticisms and not acceptable criticisms. So opportunities and threats, right? And the other side is instead of strength and weakness, where you have these content and performance. So once you create that grid and you figure out what is acceptable feedback for you and what is not, when you deliver a speech, you make after you deliver a speech, you will receive feedback. You can make a list of that feedback. For every feedback, you can check: is it content or performance? Is it acceptable or not acceptable? If it's acceptable, you integrate into your next speech, right? If it's not acceptable, you dump it into garbage. And then also you revise the checklist so that it's basically becomes an improvement tool that you can use to self validate and self evaluate and self improvement, which is what you always talk about. But you just gave them a very nicely elegant, structured, and I like your word simple. Simple in the sense that it's sublimely simple. It's structured and understandable kind of simple, not like a simpleton simple technique that I think people can use to really, over time, not only do they improve their speech, they improve their own feedback mechanism. So I thought that was great speech.
Yeah, thanks, Julie.
For content, I thought it was just.
Yeah, right, and performance. I know that I can take that what you said earlier. I need more energy. I'm Jeb Bush. I'm low energy here when it comes to public speaking, but that's a feedback. See, Jeb Bush didn't take that feedback, and he remained low energy, and now he's out of the.
I won't say that you have low energy. I think you have a lot of energy. I would just say it's not flowing through your body.
Oh, okay. It's just that it's not consistent with the message that that the body's not moving, the hands are moving. And
exactly.
You're saying, okay, I have to figure that out. Yeah, I have to work on. That's not. Yeah, that's actually could be a little difficult. Like you said, I have to do some exercise.
Yeah, I think it's. I think that's why I introduced the very simple, very gentle, but really very powerful if you do it. But we can talk about that offline.
Right. Now I forgot the point that I was going to make. I had a point that I was going to make about this whole thing about. Oh yeah, right. So one of the things I think that is not taught in public speaking courses is this part that I'm talking about. There's a lot of emphasis on how to craft a speech, how to deliver a performance, but there is very little emphasis on audience's reaction. And a lot of people, I even like when I listen to these people I listen to these podcasts, and it's just amazing like how much these people who are successful, okay, these people are much more successful than I am. And yet they spend so much time worrying about somebody giving them a 1-star for their book. And I'm like, why are they focusing on some guy giving a 1-star? Obviously, this guy who is giving you a 1-star has never written a book. He has no clue what it's like writing a book. Like, I would never give a book less than 3 stars, because to me, that if somebody made the effort of communicating their ideas in a book form, that in itself is worth at least a 3-star. And if it's something where I think I've gotten a lot out of it, then I'll give, if I've gotten a little bit out of it, the 3-star means that the book was written and I got something out of it, right? That's a 3-star. If I've gotten a little bit more out of it, then I'll give 4-star. And if I got a lot out of it, then I'll give that a 5-star. That's my way of, but nobody has ever been told on how to give out the star. So somebody, when they give a 1-star, it's reflecting more on themselves than on the book. and similarly, what people, even authors. So this is another thing. This is not just for speakers. I'm just applying it to speakers because it's something I observed when I see these authors go on these podcasts and they spend so much time about like, they get like 90% 5-stars, but they're so hung up on several 1-stars that really hurts them a lot. And I think one of the things that you have to do with authors too is that to tell them, listen, you've written a book, you've spent a lot of time, and once the book is published, somebody is going to say it's a 1-star. This book was a waste of time. This book was just a rehash of stuff that I already knew. There was nothing new here. Those type of reviews should not hurt you in any way at all. Okay. In fact, those are not even reviews. Those are mostly people are somehow just angry at something about their life, something that has happened. And a lot of times it's just a habit. People have a habit of criticizing because they could be jealous that they didn't write a book and you wrote it. So like when you write your book on 12 poses, I can tell you some of the criticism you're going to get. Oh, these are so simple. Was this even really needed in a book? These are the kind of criticisms you're going to get, and you should just ignore them because you know what? Those are things you should expect ahead of time. So part of it is that when you're creating, we spend so much time creating, but we don't spend time on how to handle the reaction you're going to get from the people that you're trying to please. It's almost like a little kid who's trying to please his parents, and then the parent says, son, you really suck. And the kid gets completely devastated for the rest of his life. And he said, only if my mom would have loved me when I performed in that play. And they're just never trained that sometimes you just can't please people. Just learn to live with it. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Julie.
Oh, thank you. um,
No,
yeah.
sorry. What were we trying to say? Like, was there?
Oh, 5 minutes.
Oh,
I give you like 2 minutes, 3 minutes warnings,
oh
and
yeah,
then
right, right,
five minutes
right. Go
because
ahead.
we said we want to keep every interaction
Yeah, right,
to
right.
3 minutes, right?
Oh, right, right.
Um, yeah, I think your point is well taken. That whatever you do in life, you're going to get criticism. What I really like is I think you know if you teach them something, you teach you're selling them fish, but they have to come back and buy fish from you all the time. But you have in this process teach them how to fish for themselves in the sense that they can. I mean, they'll still need a boost. Nobody, we're human beings, so we don't do everything by ourselves alone. But I think what you have given them is a way to learn how to fish, that they can use this process as a way to improve their own public speaking, and also, as you say, in any endeavor they do. I want to just encourage you to think about how important this process that you've come up with is.
Right. It's just something I just noticed when I see these people who are successful, but they seem to focus a lot on. I'm not talking about like a valid criticism. I'm just talking about people who will just say all kinds of nasty stuff to people, and it hurts them. And I'm like, it just seems like people that are creating don't ever really focus on what are the things that people are not going to like and how are you going to handle it. And what I'm saying is that with the book it's a little bit more complicated because you spend so much time on it, but when you're giving a speech you feel like you are trying to, it's like you want to be loved. Everybody wants to be loved. Okay, that's the thing. Always tell people I love you, and if you never criticize them they'll love you, right? That's another thing. Don't criticize people if you want to be loved. Because only criticize people who really ask for it, that hey, I really value your criticism and I'm not going to unlove you if you criticize me. Okay, otherwise never criticize people. So I just want to make a little caveat there. But it is important to spend some time understanding how are you going to react if people out there don't like what you're doing. And I think it's kind of important to do that. Julie, any closing thoughts before and just comment on, we can close out this show. So if you have any closing thoughts, and then any thoughts on the show.
Closing thoughts in terms of the doing self feedback. Absolutely great idea. I would like to work with you on creating a freelance article out of it. I don't know if we can sell it, but I would like to do that. And in terms of the whole show, yeah, I think this was a great show, and I really want to say thank you at the way, like when you say, I think when you give criticisms like make it more simple, that doesn't help me. But when you take something and give me an example how you would do it, that really helps me. So when you said make it simpler, that didn't help me. But when you said life is energy, I would like you to elaborate further. Take a minute and maybe say, I don't know that's what you said. If you knew, you could say when you eat, you have energy. When you breathe, you have energy. Or you could just say, I don't know what you mean. We are all energy. I'm a human body, or something like a little bit more concrete for me. But I think that the way you gave that feedback really helped me to make, when I moderated segment 2, when you witnessed the improvement, it was because of the feedback that you engendered. So I just want to thank you for that.
Yeah, right. No, I think that's a very good point. That if you, yeah, for the life is energy. It's kind of hard for me to. If I knew what to tell you, I would tell you. But in that one, I don't know exactly what kind of examples I could come up with. If I you're right that when you give people a feedback, if you're telling them something, then you better back it up with how you would do it. That's the right way to giving a feedback. And otherwise, the feedback has no real merit, and you should ignore
Well,
it.
actually, I was saying the opposite. I thought that what you gave me was great feedback.
Right.
Just the fact that you say, when you say life is energy, but what do you mean by that? Instead of just saying making it more simple.
Oh, I see, I see, I see, I see. Okay, okay.
So I went a little bit further than I needed to. So just to recap, I really like the way you gave me feedback because you gave me a specific example. When you said, Julie, I don't understand what you mean by life is energy, give me some examples, take a minute to explain that concept. That was very helpful for me.
Oh, okay, good, good. And I
So I
think
just want
that's,
to thank you for that.
yeah, that means a lot to me, because part of public speaking is that you need to be also give feedback and also receive feedback, and it's an art. Giving feedback, you have to be very careful on how you give feedback, whether you have the permission, whether there is a psychological safety there that the person is granted, so that it's not going to affect your relationship in any way. And this is some of the concept that applies to, we're like a team. What makes a team work? And psychological safety is one of the key part of a successful team. And people would feel like that they have the autonomy. Like, I don't want to be like, oh my God, if I say this, Julie's going to get ticked off at me. Oh no, and she's not going to invite me to her reading session or whatever, right? That's not a psychological safety. In fact, that hurts you more than it hurts me. And it hurts me in a sense that I'm not being able to be honest with you and trying to help you. So you have to always make sure that you provide that psychological safety. I'm learning that from what makes teams work. So this is part of the teaming. All right, Julie. So at this point, I'm going to close out this show. So, Julie, thank you very much, as usual, for bringing your A game. I guess, can you go higher than an A? Is that possible? Well, keep bringing an A game. A is a good score. And this is not based on, I'm not being generous, okay? I don't give out A's. Julie's left because she's the only one that still keeps getting A's. We had other people, but they all dropped out. So they all failed, I guess. But anyway, we're not going to say that. Keep that between us. But anyway, thank you for watching. And if you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please send it to us. And as I always say, that you are how you speak. And this is one skill you control. So if you start today, you can only get better. And that's up to you. Okay, so watch this show, start practicing, start recording videos, and there's nobody out there that's preventing you from doing it. And once you do it, you get hooked because you'll see the results. Okay, it may take a while, but you will see it, believe me. So again, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.